तो हे गाइस, दिस इज अमूक सक्सेना और आज की वीडियो में हम पढ़ने वाले हैं ऑब्जेक्ट्स और क्लासेस के बारे में। सो बिफोर अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट ऑब्जेक्ट्स एंड क्लासेस, लेट्स understand or go through a common topic, that is arrays. Because I guess we have studied about functions, we have studied about dictionaries, lists, but we didn't study what are arrays, right? So to understand the concept of arrays, let's go through arrays in a theoretical way for first. Then in the later on of the video, we will be learning to conceptual ways and by typing it. Okay. So Python basically does not have a built-in support for arrays, right? But you can use Python. You can use arrays in Python. Uh, Now coming to the topic, that what exactly is arrays? Okay, so array is a special kind of variable which can store more than one value at a time, right? Like suppose you want to create dictionaries, right? So array is somewhat related to dictionary, but it has its own, difference. Like in arrays, you can store about uncountable amount of numbers. Like you cannot even imagine that many counts of numbers, right? So this was all about theoretically what is arrays. Now to understand what is arrays, let's make a file here and let's type it. Okay, so we have created a file called arrays.py. In this, suppose I wanted to store some values, right? So how can I create an array? Like in my case, I want to create an array of cars. I want to create a list in which all the car names should be stored under a same name. Like here, I am creating a variable called cars. Inside that, every car name, like Ford's or Volvo, and simply like multiple brands, like for example BMW and many more, like something like that. For example, Maruti. Some common names I have given here, right? So here you can see that all the values or all the car names are stored under one single variable that is named as cars, right? Now coming to the topic, why basically we needs array, right? Because array can hold multiple names or multiple values under a single name, and you can access the values by referring to an index number. What exactly it means? Like suppose, let me write here as this is a car, right? I have created a arrays. Now I will define one more variable, that is x, and inside the x I will write cars, and then I will write the index value, like suppose 1. Okay, and now I want to print it. Print bracket x. Now let's run the program. Right? What exactly do you think it will print it out? Right? You can see it has printed Volvo. Why? Because here I have created a variable. That variable name is x, and it has the value it has the value from the list which has index number as 1. So you knows, right, that in lists and these things, index number starts from 0. So Ford is 0, Volvo is 1, BMW is 2, and Maruti is 3rd. If I would have wrote 2 instead of 3 instead of 1, right, and if I will run the code again, here you can see it says BMW. So this is how you can simply check an array, or you can uh, find out your array. This was a basic example. Now you can do one more thing. All the things which you used to do, right, in the lists and dictionaries, like finding the length, all the things we can do here as well. Like just immediately, let's tell you few things. That is here, instead of this, I will write LEN, and inside that I'll write cars, and now I will print X. Right. Now let's have a look. It says 4. Because there are 4 values inside my variable. So this is how we can tell the length and all. Right? Similarly, there are many things which you can do. Like clear is there. You can clear all the values. Then copy is there. You can copy, extend, insert, pop. Like few of the things I've already told you in the previous videos. Like when I was teaching you about lists and dictionaries, I told you that how we can add one new thing, right? Like suppose let's do one thing. I want here to add one variable, right? So I'll write it here as cars dot append, and inside append I will write that the name which I really wanted to add here, right? Like in my case, I really want that there should be one brand name called Honda. So I'll add that. Now, what I will do here is I'll remove this real quick and let's print cars. Okay. Now let's run the code. Here you can see that it has printed Ford, Volvo, BMW, Maruti, and Honda. So by this you can easily do that. Now here instead of append, instead I want that BMW, and I want that BMW should be pop. Okay, and now let's again run the code. So what it says here exactly? It says str object cannot be interpreted as an integer. Okay, so here if you want to remove, what you have to do here is, okay, let's do one thing. What I'll do here is instead of writing it in the code, I have to give its index number. Like suppose I want to relate BMW, right? I will give index number and you can see it has deleted. Now BMW has gone from here. So this is what exactly an array is all about. And you just really needed a basic function, basic knowledge about arrays to go on further and understand more details, concepts, right? So this was basically all about arrays. Moving on further, let's go and learn about the main topic of our today's video, that is classes. So let me really quick create a file called class and objects.py. Okay. So I have created a file named class and object.py. Now, what basically is a class, or what exactly is an object? So, like right now, I'm referring every class is, you can say, is like an object. Let me tell you what exactly I'm talking about. Like, for example, you see a class. A class is basically an object constructor, or you can say a blueprint. Like for example, if you want to create a house, right, you really need a blueprint of that house. So if we really need to create an object, or if you want to create an object, then the class is really very important, right? Like for example, let me give you a real quick example. Like suppose take a mobile brand, like for example take Apple. Okay, so everybody knows that the phones of Apple are basically created in China, right? In our case, it is also created in India, but nobody says that it's an Indian phone, or it's Indian manufactured phone, or it's a Chinese branded phone. Everybody says it's an Apple phone or it's an iPhone. Why it is like that? Because all the places what I'm talking about, like India and China, they manufactures it, right? They have not designed it. iPhone, or basically every single product or every single object is designed by some of the companies, right? So you can say that the part designing is only the class, or is directly connected to the class, because the phone brand, the brand of which the phone they are going to manufacture, the designs and everything are made by the brand, right? Like in my example, what I'm telling, that suppose you are talking about iPhone X, so the design which I'm talking about is created by Apple. It's what it doesn't matter that whether it's developed or manufactured by Apple or not, but the design is created by Apple. Like after 100 years also, if someone will use that design, everybody will say that it's an iPhone, right? So this is what a class and object is all about, right? Now if you really want to create a class, you have to use a keyword class. Like for example, I'll say class and I write the name that MyClass. So I have created here a class which name is MyClass, and it stores a value like x equals to 5. Right. So you can see that here basically I forgot this. Now if I'll print enter, yeah, we will get an indentation. And after indentation, suppose I gives the value x equals to 5, right? So here you can see that we have created a class. Now, associating with the class, now let's create an object. Like, it should be interconnected, or it should be somewhat relatable. So to create an object, what basically we need here is we have to add some functionality, or we have to add some functions by which they can interrelate or they can interact. Like p1 equals to MyClass. Okay, now I have given an object p1 which value is similar to what MyClass stores it. Right, now let's print p1 dot x. Okay, now let's run the code and see what output we will get. It's running the output and we got the output as 5. So this was the class, and class was having some values, it was having some designs, right? Suppose class was having some design. We used that design to create an object, and when the object was created, it was having that particular design. So this is what a class and object is all about. They are basically interconnected. Right. Now, let's go and understand about the init function. So, the examples which I am telling you guys right now, it's very basic and simple example, right? And they are not really useful in real world because you cannot do anything with that. It's not at all implementable, or you cannot solve real-time problems with that, right? But to solve real-time problems, you have to understand the meaning of classes. And to understand that, we have to use a built-in function called init function. All classes have a function that is called as init, which is always executed when the classes is being used or is being initiated. Like whenever we will call a class or whenever we will use a class, that function will be always used. So the use of init function is to assign the values, or you can say to give a commands to objects or operations. Okay, now let's really quick understand by an example. Let me just comment it out. From here, let's create a class, and I'll name a class as people. Okay, now inside that, I'll create a function that will be init. See, it has already given me the code like inif, self, and none, and then pass, right? But we doesn't need it doesn't really needs this much. We'll write it as init, then in the bracket we'll write self, then name, and then we will create a function called age. Okay. Now, for now, let's just skip and just think that there is no word written as self in the code. Later on, I will tell you exactly what is the meaning of that self. For now, let's just focus on the code, what I'm writing. Self.name. Here I will be giving as the name. Okay, and similarly, self.age equals to age. Okay. Now, what I will be writing here is I will write a P1, and inside that I will write people. Inside people, I will write as okay, and similarly, I'll write a age. Suppose I'll write here as 19. Okay. Now, what exactly I have to do here is I have to print here p1.name. Similarly, I have to print here as print p1.age. Okay. Now let's just run the code. So it's running, and you can clearly see that it's printing Amok and 19. What has happened here is I have created a function init which has some name and some age. We have defined what? We have defined here as at self.name equals to name and self.age equals to age. Now p1 is an object or is the object which we have made or which we have given. Like object contains the value that is Amok and age, and it should be stored inside the class people which we have made. Now when we print it, it is working, and you can see our code is giving the perfect output. Now we have to keep in mind that the init function is called automatically every time the class is being used or a new object is about to be created, right? So every time, whenever we will use that init function, or whenever we will use a class, that init function is used or it's run automatically to create a new object, right? Now, moving on to the further and understand about the new interesting points that are object methods. So object can also contain methods. What are exactly that? So methods are the functions that belongs to an object. I know that I'm sounding a little crazy right now, right? But trust me, when you will be understanding the concepts, it will be a little really more easy than listening to me right now, right? Because see, theoretical part is sometimes really boring. So let's skip the theoretical part and jump right into the code. Right. Let's just do one thing. Let's create or let's understand about the object methods. So suppose I'll create a class and I'll name it as person. Okay. Inside this person class, I'll define a function, and that function will be init. Inside init, I'll store the same old values, that is name and age. Okay. Now inside of it, what I will write here is I'll write self dot name equals to name and self dot age equals to age. Okay, like this I will store it. Now what I will do here is I will define one more function, that is diff my func. Like that I will create a function and I'll name it, I'll store a value called self. Okay, now what I will print here is I will print hello, my name is plus self dot name. So you can see we have provided a functionality here, right? Now what I will give here is I will give a value name person, and inside this I'll store the name. That in my case my name is Amok, right? And my age is 19. Okay. So we have given this. Now what I will do here is I will call my func. That is my function. And as soon as I will call my func, it will automatically run. And I hope if you guys have watched my functions video, you will be understanding that when I wrote p1.myfunc, my func will be executed and it will print the things which I have written here. Like, let me do it capital. Okay, I guess it is not printing anything. Let's check it. Print my func. Yeah, it's correct. Oh, sorry. I just forgot to add brackets. Now it will implement, and here you will be watching, hello, my name is Mo. So you can see that this was the thing which I was saying, right? Object methods. Now you can understand that it was really easy, right? It was not that difficult to understand about the object methods. Now moving on, let's understand what exactly was the self I was talking about. So the self parameter is a reference to, see, I'm telling you before only that this thing which I'm going to tell is completely theoretical. And I know 99% of you will be not understanding what I'm going to say. But it's just for the person who wants to create notes or who is just watching videos to understand the concepts theoretically. For them, I'm just reading the definitions. But for others, it's just, I will be explaining it myself. Like the self parameter is a reference, you can say. It's defining, or it's giving us information about the current instance of the class, like what is the instance or what is the current position of a class, and it's used to access the variables which belongs to the class. Yeah, I told you, right? It will be completely theoretical, right? So what it was, like, it is a parameter, or you can say it is some sort of container which is a reference of the current instances or the current values which are there in the class, and by using the self you can access the values, right? Like in our case we store that self name, that the name which is present here is should be equal to name, and the self age should be present to the age, right? Now, it does not really have to be named as self. You can call it whatever you like, but it has to be the first parameter of any function, right? If suppose instead of self, if I would have wrote here as xyz, so here everywhere I have to change it as xyz, and then similarly xyz, right? And here also xyz, and same here as xy and z, right? So it does not really wants to be the self every single time. If I will run that as well, you can see it's giving us the same output. Hello, my name is Amok, right? So I told you it was not that really difficult to understand. This was all about self parameter, right? Now, what are the next topic which he really wants to understand? Before going there, let's have a quick code and let's write a quick code to just check how much we have learned or how much uh, things we have got. Let's do one thing, right? For that, there are some functionalities that are I'm writing, like the properties associated to the objects, right? So here I'm going to write the properties which are associated or which are related to objects. Some of them are like, suppose you want to modify anything. So you can really do that is by writing a code that p1.age equals to 40. If I want to set up an age of some very particular person, p1 should be 80. So I can really do that. Like in our case, let's do one thing. We'll copy this and we'll run it to this particular function. Let's see how it works. Okay. Now, let's just do one thing. Here, after writing this, I'll just paste it like that. Okay. Now let's just run the code. Let's see whether it's working fine or not. Here you can see that it is saying, hello, my name is Amog. And then here I'll write one more print function that is my age is plus xyz dot age. Okay. Now let's just do one thing. Let's just run the code again and see what exactly will be the output. Okay. Here it's saying that we cannot, it says we have type error, right? That in line 31 in module, that is, which one exactly is line 31? Okay. It says p1.myfunc. In my func, print my age is xyz can only concatenate str, not int. Okay, so let's just do one thing. Str h. Will it work like that? Right? Do you guys think that it will work this way? Not exactly. Now, when I'm defining it as 40, should actually, let's just do one thing. We'll write here as okay. Now again, let's run the code, and now you can see it's running exactly fine. See, the changes which I did here is before I wrote it as normal 40, which means I was defining it as a integer, but we cannot concatenate a string with an integer. So to use that, what I did here is I have given the value also as integer. Oh, sorry, as a string. Now it's accepting the values, and you can see I got the output. Right. Now, similarly, if I want to delete any object or if I want to delete anything, so what I can do here is I'll write del p1.h. Okay. Now again we'll run the function. Now what it's saying, that it says that in line 26, person object has no attribute age, right? What it says that the person which we have defined here, it does not have any particular age. Why? Because it has deleted the age, right? So you can see that the function, this age one also is working. Now it's printing just fine, right? So this is how you can delete any object properties, or if you want to delete any object, full object, you can write delete p1, right? And again we'll run the code. It says in line 32 name p1 it's not defined, right? Where is exactly line 32? It says p1 dot my function. It has this particular line has deleted the function. That's why it says that the p1 is not defined. So this is how you can delete. Now there is one more statement. It's called as pass statement. Now, class definitions cannot be empty, but if you want, for some reason, that the class should not have any content, you can just simply write the pass statements to avoid any sort of errors, right? Like in my case, I want class person, class, suppose I'll make a class, its name is people, and inside this I'll write as pass. Now, if I will run the code, you can see it does not shows any sort of error. So to avoid any error, you can write this pass statements as well, right? So I hope that you guys have understood the concepts which I told you. If you have any sort of doubt or any issues regarding it, you can really comment down, and I'll be really very happy to answer it and solve your doubts and issues. If you are liking this series, then do like, share, subscribe to the channel so that you can't miss the upcoming videos. From the next videos, we will be moving on further and we will be understanding Django. This was really all about Python from my side that you really wanted to know, or you wanted to, you should be having knowledge for basic Python or for this beginning of Django. This is completely, sufficient, I will say, for starting Django. Now, from the next video, we will be understanding Django. We will be learning how to install Django and some basic functionalities. First program in Django, and then we will be moving on further and understanding about utilities. Okay, so my name was Amuk Saxena. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you in another one. Till then, see ya. Have a great day. Bye bye.